G'day mate, welcome to Capital Industry with me, Jetty. Today I want to talk about, well, the latest update. The latest update which now includes blueprints. Yes, Capital Industry finally has blueprints added to the system, which means we've got a couple of things to talk about. Not only just the blueprints, but also a couple of other minor additions they added at the same time. So before we get into the meat of it, I want to ask a quick favor. One, can I borrow a like? Can I borrow a like? Because, well, I've just noticed his wheels are going backward. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's talk about blueprints. Blueprints do require a couple of things. One, they require you to jump into the research tree. You're going to have to research blueprints. They come right after the captain's office. You get access to blueprints, which is awesome. When you unlock blueprints, you have a new button down here. But this button requires that you have a captain's office active. If we don't have the captain's office active, you no longer get access to blueprints. So keep that in mind. Not only do you have to have the captain's office built, but you've got to keep it up and running, which is a little bit awkward early game. And yes, blueprints are available very early in the game, right after, well, like I said, the captain's office, which is sort of the point where you start getting belts up and running. You know, it's not far after belts, so it's sort of the perfect spot to have blueprints added to the game. Speaking of blueprints, there's a couple of other things I want to add. I want to add to the list really quickly is the devs have updated the game. So poles, pillars that were in the game previously. As we could see, they would add and remove pillars when and where the game decided it wanted to. Now, if you build a section, it will no longer move the pillars. So I can now pick and choose where I want to put the pillars. Also means when you copy and paste things, or when you blueprint things, it remembers where the pillars are. Speaking of copy and pasting, if we now pick up the copy tool, we can see we can now select a much larger section of the map, which also applies to blueprints. So with those two quick additions out of the way, let's talk about blueprints. Now, blueprints, we've got a brand new little button down here, which gives us a couple of options. Create a new blueprint, create a new folder, and add a new blueprint by pasting text from a clipboard. So you can actually export and import your blueprints, which is very, very good. It also means that there's going to be high requests for many of my previous builds to be made available as blueprints. You will find all of those slowly appearing on Discord over the next couple of days. They all are going to need revisions and updates and confirmations that they all work also at the same time. I think I want to try and rearrange all the pillars so they all sort of line up, because some of them are a mess sometimes. Anyway, well, that's one thing that I want to get done. As I said, over the next couple of days, you'll find them on Discord first, but at the same time, I do want to mention there is a secondary website, that being captainshaven.org, which was set up by a member of the community for sharing blueprints. So you're going to find them over there eventually. They won't be there first. They'll be on my Discord server first, and then they'll make it over to the website eventually. But let's talk about blueprints. So we can create a new blueprint by selecting an area of existing structures. So if I just select that, we get a brand new blueprint. We can name it whatever we want. Let's call this Tempe, because I like the name Tempe, and we can then have a couple more options pop up in the top right hand corner. So we can place the currently selected blueprint into the world. We can export the string. So if I click this, it tells me it's 665 characters long. I can copy that to the clipboard, and then I can share it on, say, Discord. Next option is we can upgrade the description of this item, which is very, very handy. You're going to find I'm going to end up using these descriptions fairly often for different things, especially as I try to make my blueprints as modular as possible, with certain steps you can use to upgrade a blueprint from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, so on and so forth. We'll demonstrate that shortly. Of course, we have the wonderful delete button, and we also have a version revision, so you can see what version that the blueprints were made in. I'm glad I waited to 4.14. I was actually playing with the blueprints about a week ago when it was in the experimental branch, and it was working mostly, but there was a couple of bugs that were fixed along the way. Anyway, with that out of the way, we're going to obviously place this blueprint, and as we can see, it applies to the cursor, and we can whack this anywhere. But before I do that, I also want to talk about new folders, and well, actually, let's go with new folders. So, same story. I can have multiple folders with subfolders, and subfolders, and all these are stored in a Magic Blueprints data file. So that's something you're going to have to keep in mind. They're stored in a data file, not plain text, which I don't know. I don't know if I'm for or against that. One thing I do wish is we could put some sort of icons on the folders, and also the blueprint files themselves. We do get a preview of what buildings are in here. but there is going to be some more complicated designs that are going to like fill out this little preview window very, very quickly. All right, we can also share a whole folder, so you can export a whole folder with a lot of characters, or actually that's probably a better example, a lot of characters, if you wish to export and share whole folders. So with that out of the way, let's actually place down a blueprint. So I have I have a previous video I did about upgradable iron smelter designs. I'll actually link it up in the top right hand corner if you're curious, where I have, well, the first version, you know, where you put down early game before you have belts. Then we have the belted version. Then we have the Arc Furnace Mark II version. Then we have the Arc Furnace Mark II with scrubbing version. And then, Blast Furnace Mark II, yep. Then we have the Arc Furnace Mark II, where it goes through a few revisions. So we're going to try our best. I'm going to demonstrate as we go on getting this up and running. So we're going to start with the beltless smelter, and we're going to put that right there. And as we can see, because I have planning mode on, well, we stay in planning mode and everything goes down paused, which I am a giant fan of. It means hopefully less mistakes. Yeah. We're going to, of course, use Unity to build everything. And a couple of things I should mention along the way. This is a 1-for-1 copy. So as we can see, I have these on auto, import and export. I also have the recipes set. And once this is built, it'll have auto along with the recipes set. So it does copy over all the settings from one building to, well, one blueprint, one copy to the next. There we go. That's the wording I'm looking for. All right, so this is our first design. Nice and simple. Has 2 smelters, requires trucks import because this is for early game before we have blueprints, and also before we have belts. Next one is going to be the belted smelter, which I've just realized that pipe's in the way. Can we just remove that pipe really quickly? Yeah. And let's just run that pipe. Cool, because we are going to need that. All right, back into our blueprints. We have the second version. Now, if we hover this over the top, there are some very important things I need you to pay attention to. So when we place this over the top, we can see certain things are red, i.e. they're blocked, and certain things are green. If I slide this over a couple of tiles, we'll see some things are still red and other things are now green. You can place things like this and make an absolute mess, which I highly recommend you don't do. But it also means that if you're looking at, can I get rid of all that, please? And the double smokestacks. Okay, if you're looking at placing a blueprint over a blueprint, you can perfectly fine, as long as, things line up. So we're gonna place that there, and that's gonna add the belts because, well, we're now a little bit further in the tech tree and we now have the addition of being able to use belts. So we have, if we look at the actual working version, we have iron coming in along with coal coming in, and slag goes out on the far belts at the top. Hey, trucks! Not enough materials, guys. Up. You gonna run? Excellent. I don't think, oh, well, it's a recycling recipe, so no, of course there's no slag to export. All right, so up. There we go. The other one should be running now, and we should see some slag pop out in this belt. Hey, perfect. Glad to see a good demonstration work. Okay, so from there, if we go back into the blueprint book, I can see my next one is a Mark II iron furnace. Now, if I double click on that and try and place this over the top, we can see that I still have a whole bunch of red things, and that is mainly because, well, these are Blast Furnace Mark IIs. So I could place this here, but it's obviously not going to work because it's not intended to work because it's requiring, you know, a bigger and better smelter. So we're going to use one of the tools that devs added a little while ago, being the upgrade planner. And we're going to drag that over everything first. And then we're going to say Blast Furnace to a Blast Furnace Mark II. Yes. Metal Caster to a Metal Caster Mark II. Yes. The belts you could upgrade, you could not upgrade. It all depends on whether you want to tick them or untick them. Let's upgrade that one, but not upgrade that one. I'm going to click upgrade. And we can see everything is now marked for upgrade. And I can throw Unity at the problem, of course. And these are going to take the longest to upgrade. Now, because this is an upgrade, not a blueprint, we're going to end up losing one of the recipes because, as we can see, if we go look at the originals, you now have the limestone recipe with the iron ore crushed. You don't have access to this recipe, which means these are going to basically break. We're going to lose one of these two recipes, which means you're going to have to manually turn it back on, this particular recipe here. Now, one of the things I really wish the devs would add, and maybe they will, maybe they won't, is if I take this blueprint and I paste it over the top, I really wish it would add or enable that recipe. That's probably a more accurate way of putting it. So I really wish it would just tick that box, say, hey, look, I've put this over the top. I change the settings as required, and well, enable the recipes. We're going to Unity build that, which then means, assuming I actually had the belts hooked up to raw resources at the rear, it would now be running, and it would be now running on, well, the iron ore crush, the limestone, and the coal recipe. Finally, as I have a bunch of blueprints here, I have the next upgrade, which is for smelter scrubbing, which we're going to add by removing that smokestack and that smokestack, and again, Unity those two, and get rid of them. Then we're going to add this little blueprint on the front, which will take all the exhaust and put it into a single exhaust pipe, and plug this into the CO2 scrubber. Probably a bad example because, I don't think I have access to... Do I? Technically, if I turn that on. Yeah, I don't really have access to iron ore crushed that these guys could import, but this would let us take the CO2 out and, well, the exhaust out and scrub it via the exhaust scrubber and turn it into CO2. And then, of course, as we're talking about blueprints, which is, funnily enough, under the F4 button, we have the Arc Furnace Mark II upgrade as well, which requires us to upgrade the smelters. It's also going to require some other fiddles in there. So let's talk about how this particular one goes. So in this case, we upgrade that building and upgrade that building. We also remove that belt, that belt, that belt, that belt, and I believe, if memory serves me correctly, the second belt, because that's the one with coal on it. It should be, and Unity build all that, and that, and that. No, they are being upgraded. Yes, they're being upgraded very, very slowly. It takes a little while to go to an Arc Furnace Mark II, but they are impressive. They are impressive on the fact that well, they create steam, which then you turn into power. Yeah, very, very handy. Anyway, once these are done, we should be able to, there we go, put our blueprint over the top. And if I line this up correctly, like so, and you build everything, and then I need to hook in the water supply to convert into steam. There we go. And we'd have to enable some recipes, so again, have to manually enable the recipes. Again, like I said, I'd really love it if the devs could fix it up. So if you just put things over the top, they go in and take on those recipes, and that would be the steam, which I'm just going to vent for the moment. But we can see that the power of blueprints is now here. The power of blueprints is here, which means a whole lot more designs are going to be shareable. It also means that, as we can see by the massive supports under here and also around the back, the round back's not too bad, honestly. It's not great either, but it's not too bad. We can see that a lot more people are going to put a lot more time and a lot more effort into trying to make sure that their designs are as neat as possible, which means I'm very, very eager to see people's designs. I really hope to see more people put effort into trying to line up the pillars and make them as neat as possible. Also make sure that, I could probably see it now, I could probably see a belt highway where people have spaced out the pillars correctly to make sure you can get the maximum amount of trucks underneath all the different belts in a belt or pipe highway. I can see both actually. But yes, we can see that this is now up and running, and we built all this within 10 minutes using just the power of blueprints, which means I now have a lot of blueprints I need to go make and add and share on Discord. So with all that said, this is where we're going to keep this, or going to end this short little video. Before you ask, am I going to do another Let's Play? The answer is, I'm waiting for update 1. Update 1 is due sometime in Q2 this year, so sometime in the next 4 months, we should be seeing that update. Also, the main reason I'm waiting for that is saves from this version are not compatible with that version. That's the main reason I think the devs have added blueprints for right now. It means you can take your very cool designs you've made and carry them forward because your saves are no longer going to be compatible. It was a choice the devs had to make to speed up development time and add a whole bunch of features, including map editors, which means there's going to be a whole bunch of custom maps in the second half of the year. It also, they've said, are going to be adding a whole lot of new technology, new recipes. So I can't wait to see what Captain Industry has in the future. but it means I'm waiting till then. I'm waiting till then for that particular update before I get in before I sink my teeth back into captive industry. But with all that said, this is where we're going to end this nice simple video. As I said, if you're interested in my blueprints, you'll find them published on Discord first, and then maybe eventually, once I get them ironed out and neatened up and straightened out, then you'll find them posted across on Captain's Haven. Anyway, with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the very next video. All right, bye.